Alright guys, so I know that I said we were going to do this in Unreal, but I decided not to because Unreal's weight painting tools are just a little janky. I don't like them, and I'm just unfamiliar with them, and it's, in my opinion, a little bit more difficult to do it in Unreal than it is in Blender, so this isn't going to be a comprehensive weight painting guide to Blender, so if you want a comprehensive guide, then you can go watch videos dedicated by people that do primarily modeling and rigging and stuff. So anyway, just go to File, New, General. If you haven't already, after you load it up and you select General, then it'll give you this. Just press A to highlight all this and press Delete. Then we're going to go to File, Import, FBX. And go to the folder where your Synty character is. I'm going to import it with the UE import settings, which means that forward is Y forward, up is Z up, and the primary axis is X, the secondary is Y. I'm going to import it like that. You'll have your character here. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into pose mode. I'm going to select the skeleton first, go into pose mode. And then I'm going to select these big bones and press H to hide them. And now you see that they're all gone. Now I'm going to go into object mode. I'm going to go to this running man, go to view, port, display, and select in front so that we can actually see them. Now we have a skeleton here, and then we have a mesh. And under the mesh, you'll see this icon right here. It's called Data, Object Data Properties. And under here, you see these vertex groups. So basically, these vertex groups are just like weight paints. It's just a collection of weighted values on these verts. And if you go over here to this icon right here, Show Overlays, and you press this button next to it, and you select wireframe right here, you'll see the wireframe. And so these where these lines run together, those are called verts. And if you select the mesh and go into edit mode, you can actually select these verts individually. These things that run between them, the lines, those are called edges. And these right here are called faces. So I'm just going to come out of here. This isn't a comprehensive guide, people, so anyway. So for whatever reason, this bone right here actually seems to be, I don't know, it just, the alignment of it seems weird to me. Anyway, it's not a big deal. So if you select this mesh, what you have is you have these vertex groups, and these vertex groups are linked to these bones, and they tell those bones what verts are weighted and by how much, basically how much they're influenced by the rotation and location of these bones. And that's how weights work. So that's the crash course. What we're going to do is we're going to select the mesh, and we're going to come up here to this menu and select weight paint. And you'll see right now the leg is selected, and so it's showing the weights of the leg. The blue is basically no weight, and red, or maybe it's white, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's red. Red means that it's fully 100% weighted, and everything in between is kind of like a gray scale of values between 0 and 1. So anyway, we have this draw where we can draw these. If we hold down Control and click, you'll see it removes it. And then we have this blur tool which smooths it out. It kind of averages the values between the bones. And that's basically the rundown of it. We only really need to use these two tools right here to do this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find this right hand group under here. And you'll see, if you scroll up, you'll see hand R, thumb 1R, thumb 2R, so on and so forth. So we're going to select the pinky 1R, and you'll see that it's actually only weighted right here, which is stupid. I don't know why. So I'm just going to delete that, and you'll see it's partially weighted up here, which is also stupid because we don't want that either. So I'm just going to delete all of that. You'll see it was also partially weighted up here, but the values were so weak that you couldn't even see. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm just going to make sure that nothing was left on the arm. And then what I'm going to do is with this draw selected, I'm just going to, and I was holding down Control while I was clicking and dragging to delete those, by the way. So I'm just going to do this number here. And I'm just going to click until it's red. And I'm going to make sure it's red all along this line. Okay. And now I'm going to select the blur tool, and I'm just going to blur this. And you'll see how it smooths it out. And I'm doing this at the vertex points because those are the only things that actually are influenced by the colors between. Those are just the weights of how it scales across those. But yeah, that's basically it. That's about how you want it to look like for the knuckles. Now, this may come out a little bad because of the fact that there's no faces, there's no division between these faces here. There should be more faces right here, but they're just one big face, you see? And because of that, there's no resolution here, which means that the hand can't bend right here in a natural way because it's too low poly. So that's problematic. The guy who made this, he didn't know what he was doing, because if he did, then he wouldn't have, the topology of the hand wouldn't look like this. That's really bad topology. Probably the worst topology I've ever seen on any model. So it's definitely not proper for what we're trying to do here. So just let that be known. We can go over here to the armature and press this eyeball to hide the skeleton while we're doing this. And I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to remove all the weights, because this right here shouldn't be influenced by the second bone of the pinky. None of that should be. And some of the arm is probably also influenced. It's probably just influenced so weakly that it doesn't even show. So we're just going to remove all of that. Remove all of that. Now, if we unhide that, you'll see this is the pinky 2 bone where that ball is. That's where the actual main point of it is. And so we want this to be red all the way across this line. We're just going to follow that around. Just like that. And now we're going to blur it. You have to be careful blurring it. Don't do it too much, because this color down here represents the amount of influence it's going to have on this part of the mesh. We just want to kind of smooth it out a little bit so that the transition between is better. You'll see this one was really bad. We're just going to completely redo all these weights because they're horrible. And we're going to remove that influence. And that's probably pretty good right there, actually. And so what we want to do is we want to blur this. Right along here. Now this still isn't going to come out real great, guys, and I'm going to just be blunt with you. This is really, really low resolution. I mean, this is super low resolution. You're not going to get good deformation out of a low resolution model like this. It's like insanely low resolution. Not only is it low resolution, but the topology is just complete garbage. So we're going to select this index finger here. Basically, we're doing the same thing. This is it just did a horrible job on fingers. It's hard to create a procedural algorithm that just nails it on stuff like this. I mean, it does a pretty good job considering, but it's just not good enough. I wasn't holding down control that entire time. You'll see them move a little bit. Sometimes the weights are there, but they're just so weak that you can't even tell that they're there. So anyway, so that's this right here. 0.1. Now this one will do a little bit different. So we want to smooth it right here because it's going to have influence on the thumb right here. So we want to blur this all right here. And it may not be a bad idea to blur it up a little bit on this side and on this side as well. Something like that. You might even blur it a little right there. And then, of course, we're going to blur it down here. We want even distribution of these weights. All right, so now we're going to do this finger. This is all wrong. Let's just hold down Control and just remove those. And now we'll weight these strongly right here at this joint. Hold down Control and remove it right there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to blur it. That one's almost good. Our main concern is even distribution. Actually, this right here is the end. So actually, I think this should be, yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Okay. And we'll blur right here. And then the thumb. Actually, yeah, so this one's going to be kind of tricky. I'm not sure I even want to mess with that thumb 1 bone, because it's in such a bad spot. If you do this wrong right here on this side, then whenever his thumb bends outwards, it'll cause this to go inwards. So it may be best just to leave that like it is. or just completely remove those weights. As far as this though, we can remove its influence on this part of the mesh. Let's see. So that's supposed to be this bone. This shouldn't be red right here, but we can make it red like right here. And then remove the influence from this right here. And then we'll blur it for a more even distribution. And then maybe, ooh, yeah, be careful right here. All right. Now this one should definitely be red down here, but I think it should be red up here as well. And then let's blur it. I'm going to undo that one. All right. Now that's pretty much it. Now you can mirror this, these weights over to the other side, but I'm unfamiliar with that. Like I said, this isn't a comprehensive course. I don't do this inside of Blender every day. It's not that difficult to do though. It's just trying to get the weights properly. Weighting can be really difficult. Weighting depends on a lot of things. It depends on topology and how well you structured the topology, as you can see here. This is actually a great example of how bad topology can cause a great deal of pain for animators or riggers. But yeah, so we can go out of weight mode by coming up here and selecting object mode, and then we can select the skeleton and go into pose mode. And now we can try to rotate these, and make sure that you go from global to local first up here. Otherwise you won't be rotating along the orientation of the bone. Oh, what did I just do? I don't know. I just undid it though. And then we'll select these bones and rotate them. And considering the low topology, the low quality topology, that actually does not look bad. This is going to be the one that we have the most problems with. We won't be able to bend it real drastically, or it'll cause a lot of problems. But yeah. So that actually doesn't look too bad considering, but it looks like we have a small problem right around this vert right here, where it's pulling these in too much. And so if we select this bone, you'll see it seems like maybe this bone has too much influence on these, and I believe that's what's causing it. So let's go back into object mode, select the mesh, and go to weight paint mode. And we'll come over here to the Pinky 01. And I'm thinking maybe actually Pinky 01 needs more influence down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the blur tool, and it looks like it's not adding enough to this to correct the problem. So let's try this. That still doesn't seem to correct the problem. So we could add to this like that, and then go to the second one here and maybe remove I just pressed shift and did that, and it actually divided it, the weight, by 2. We could even, like, maybe just, instead of going up in here, go down in over here. And then we could blur this right here. And you can actually make this bigger by pressing the bracket keys or by going over here. And if you do that, then the mesh inside of here will be influenced. Don't make it too big though, obviously. So I'm just going to relax that a little bit and relax that and relax this. Yeah, so I mean, that's probably about as good as we're gonna get it, and that's pretty good, to be honest with you. So this is clipping inside the other one. That's kind of difficult to avoid. We'll go back into object mode and we'll select this one and go into pose mode. And now we'll try rotating this. Yeah, no, that's not too bad, considering. Obviously, the thumb has a limited range of motion as is, so be aware of that. But yeah, if we do that, you'll see that actually doesn't look too bad. I'm thinking it's a little too weighted over here on this. This bone right here, the second thumb bone, it has too much influence right here. And so we're going to go back into object mode, select that. We're going to look for the thumb 2 bone, and you'll see it's red right there for the thumb 2. And we're just going to blur that to relieve some of the pull on it. And I'm going to blur that. I'm going to select thumb 1, and I'm going to try to increase the amount of weight it has. Right here. That's probably going to be about as good as we get it. Something like that. That's probably too much right there. That should be good. Alright guys, that's basically it. You would just have to do the same thing on the other hand. I'll do that offline, but that's the video. And next we'll set this up inside of Unreal, use it in my dynamic additive offset project that I've made. Alright guys, so I'm done with mine. So after you're satisfied with the weights, what you're going to do is you're going to come back into object mode, and you're going to click, drag, well, just select the skeleton, go to pose mode, and then click, drag over all the bones, and then go to pose, clear transform, all, and this will reset it back into its base pose. I don't know what I just did there. I'm going to redo that because I'm afraid I might have accidentally clicked on something. So there's the base pose, which it put it in the UE4 pose, but now we're not in the UE4 pose. Okay, so they must have not. Maybe they didn't key it or something on the timeline. Oh, it's keyed. Okay, never mind. So yeah, I think that's good. I think that's fine. Yeah, so the weird kind of angle that some of these bones are at on the thumb, I think that has to do with the way it put it into the UE4 pose. Okay. So I guess if you scrub through this timeline and go back to frame 1, you'll see that at time 0, it has him in the UE4 pose. But anyway, we reset that just to make sure. So what we're going to do now is we're going to export FBX. I'm going to select my Unreal preset and uncheck selected objects because I want to export the entire thing. So you want Y forward, Z up, and under armature, X primary, Y secondary, geometry, we want it to be face smoothing. And then we're going to come back in here, and I'm just going to export this back out. I'm going to put a B on the end of it so I know it's from Blender. Alright, so in the next video we'll set this up in the dynamic additive offset project that I put together.